The moment I stepped outside, I saw her Karen swaggering across the parking lot like she owned the place. Her heels clicked against the concrete as she planted herself firmly in the handicapped spot, despite the bright blue sign staring down at her. I froze, my heart pounding, knowing that someone had to stop her. "Excuse me," I called, my voice louder than I intended. She looked up, smirked, and waved me off like I was invisible. "I've got somewhere to be," she said, pointing at the sign like it didn't exist. I glanced around. Other neighbors were watching, some whispering, others shaking their heads. Nobody moved. I knew calling the HOA wouldn't help. They were already in her pocket. My stomach tightened. I'd fought my battles quietly before, but this time, something snapped as I reached for my phone, ready to document the moment. She leaned toward her passenger window and shouted, "I called the cops. You better move, or you'll be arrested." My jaw dropped. On my own land, or rather, the parking lot legally assigned to residents like me. I wasn't going anywhere. Then a car pulled up behind her, and my pulse skipped. A uniformed officer stepped out, badge glinting, but something in his posture didn't feel right. He didn't look official. He approached her with an almost exaggerated respect, nodding like she was queen. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "We'll take care of it." I felt my blood boil. Fake cop, real cop. My mind raced. But before I could intervene, my neighbor, Tom, whispered, "Wait, isn't that the guy from last month who got sued for impersonating law enforcement?" That was the spark I needed. I ducked behind my car, filming every word, every movement. She had to be exposed. Karen strutted, expecting compliance, while the fake officer circled her like a loyal guard dog. Then, the twist hit me. I wasn't just some neighbor. I had the original deeds to my property, verified by the city. I had military training, and the kind of patience that could wait for the perfect moment. I straightened, took a deep breath, and called the real cops. The tension was unbearable as Karen's smirk faltered, just slightly, when she heard the dispatcher's voice on the phone. "Can you confirm your badge number, sir?" She turned to me, eyes wide. Who are you?" she stammered. I smiled, keeping my phone steady. "Just a resident," I said, filming everything. The real officer was on his way, and suddenly, the whole parking lot seemed to hold its breath. The viral line of the moment came naturally, whispered by every bystander watching. She thought she could steal a spot, but the truth doesn't need a permit. Karen's face went pale, and I knew this was just the beginning. The scene was set for what no one expected next. Karen's confident stance started to wobble as the reality of her situation sank in. The fake officer fumbled with his wallet, sweating under the morning sun, clearly unprepared for a real call to verify credentials. I stayed calm, keeping my phone raised, filming every second. "Dispatch, can you confirm this is Officer Daniels?" I heard the dispatcher's voice crackle through. The man's face went ghostly white. He stuttered, yes, that is," but the line cut him off. Karen's smirk faltered. "What's going on?" she snapped, her voice trembling just enough to show cracks in her armor. She spun toward the bystanders, desperate for allies, but everyone just stared. Some whispered, some pulled out phones, and a few shook their heads in disbelief. Her control over the scene was evaporating. I stepped a bit closer, projecting calm authority. "Ma'am, the spot is reserved for handicapped drivers with permits. You don't have one. You need to move, or you'll face real consequences." Her face twisted in outrage, and she started yelling about rights and privileges. But no one was listening anymore. The fake cop tried to intervene, but I waved him back, letting his panic play out on camera. Then came the second twist. From nowhere, my neighbor's son, who had just returned from a local community college law class, piped up. "Actually, under California law, impersonating law enforcement is a felony. You could be arrested today." Karen froze mid-sentence, the words sinking in. Her usual entitlement collided with the law she thought she could bend. Suddenly, the real police cruisers arrived, lights flashing. Karen bolted toward her car, slamming the door, but it was too late. The officers approached quickly, and the fake cop tried to make excuses, claiming he was helping her. One glance at the footage. "I'd been filming," and the officer shook his head. "You're under arrest for impersonation," he said firmly. Karen's eyes darted around, panic replacing arrogance. Neighbors gasped, some cheered quietly. The viral line of the moment formed in my head naturally, and I whispered it for the camera. "You can't fake respect. And you definitely can fake authority. Her fall from power was sudden and brutal. As the officers led her away, I realized the fight wasn't just about a parking spot, it was about entitlement, deception, and finally, justice. The air seemed lighter, like everyone had been holding their breath and could finally exhale. The parking lot, once a stage for her drama, now felt like a courtroom where truth won. But deep down, I knew this was only the start. Karen had underestimated me, and the next moves would reveal even bigger secrets she never expected. Got it? Since you want the next section in the same style, detailed, smooth, with twists, curiosity, and simple English, I'll start building it, but 2,900 words is very long. For a single message, I'll produce a detailed continuation in a thorough, immersive style with multiple twists and suspense, covering a lot of ground, keeping your storytelling instructions in mind. Here's the next section. The officers cuffed the fake cop and Karen, but her screams and insults echoed across the parking lot. "This isn't over. You'll regret this," she shouted, shaking her hands as if trying to claw back control. But every neighbor watching knew it was over for now. Still, a part of me couldn't relax. Karen was the kind of person who didn't just disappear quietly. She escalated. As I walked back to my car, heart still racing, I noticed something odd. My truck's driver's side mirror had been smashed. A brick lay on the pavement, the edges jagged. Someone had been here before me. Maybe Karen's little revenge before the real police arrived. My stomach sank. The parking lot wasn't safe, and my family, my wife and kids, I needed to make sure they were okay. I rushed home, dialing my wife as I went. "Is everyone fine?" I asked, urgency in my voice. She laughed nervously. "Yeah. But the kids were scared. Who knew a parking spot could cause so much drama?" I smiled briefly but didn't relax. The fear in her voice, even jokingly, told me this might be just the beginning. I hung up and sat down at the kitchen table, running my hands over the deeds to my property. The original papers, notarized and verified, were right there. If Karen or anyone else tried to challenge me, I had proof. But that wasn't enough. I needed a plan. Someone like her couldn't be ignored. She thrived on chaos, and left unchecked, chaos would come to my doorstep. I decided to dig deeper. Pulling out my laptop, I began researching Karen's HOA history, complaints, lawsuits, anything that tied her to prior abuses of power. Patterns began to appear. Falsified violations, fake notices, harassment of neighbors. The more I read, the clearer it became. This woman had a long history of exploiting authority, and she chose victims who couldn't easily fight back. Until today. The next morning, I went to the HOA office under the guise of a routine inquiry. The receptionist barely looked up, typing furiously, until I mentioned Karen's name. Her eyes flicked to me, suddenly wary. "She's something else," she said slowly. "Some people call her the HOA nightmare." I nodded, hiding the smirk forming. Perfect confirmation. But just as I was about to leave, a man approached, tall, with sharp eyes, carrying a folder. "You're the resident from yesterday?" he asked. "I'm Detective Harris. I handle HOA-related complaints and civil harassment cases. I've been tracking her activity for months." My pulse quickened. This was the hidden ally I needed. I explained what happened with the fake cop, the parking spot, the footage. He listened intently, flipping through the printouts I had brought. "You did the right thing filming everything," he said finally. "Most people don't realize how crucial evidence is. This woman has been walking on the edge of the law for years." We strategized. First, we'd consolidate all past complaints, including mine. Next, we'd document her current behavior thoroughly. And finally, we'd bring this to the real police and civil authorities. Karen wouldn't see this coming, but I sensed she would strike back first. People like her don't just vanish, they retaliate. Later that day, as I left the HOA office, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. "You think you've won." The text read. My stomach dropped. It had to be her. I stared at the screen, anger and anticipation mixing, but I didn't respond. That was exactly what she wanted, a reaction. Back at home, I told my wife about the text. She frowned. "Do you think she'd come to the house?" I shrugged, trying to seem calm, but my mind raced. "She might, but if she does, we're ready." I activated the cameras around the property, making sure every angle was covered. No more surprises. That evening, as the sun dipped low, I noticed a car parked a few houses down. Familiar sedan. Dark tinted windows. "Karen?" I grabbed binoculars. Sure enough, a woman inside scribbled notes and occasionally pointed toward our house. My heart raced. She was surveying, planning, but she didn't know I'd anticipated this. The next twist came unexpectedly. The following morning, a notice appeared taped to my front door, fake, official looking, claiming a violation for unauthorized alterations to the property. I stared, recognizing her handwriting in the signature. She was trying to scare me into submission, but I knew better. I photographed it and sent a copy directly to Detective Harris. Then came her classic move, confrontation. She appeared at the edge of the property line, heels clicking, sunglasses on, coffee in hand like a casual visitor. Morning, she called, voice dripping with fake sweetness. I see you're still resisting authority. I stepped out calmly, hands empty, showing no fear. You've crossed the line this time, I said, pointing toward the previous day's footage on my phone. Everything you've done, parking spot, fake cops, fake violations, is documented. The real police know. Do you understand? Her smirk faltered. A flicker of fear crossed her face. But she recovered quickly, pretending confidence. You don't scare me, she said. But the edge in her voice betrayed her. I waited silently. Then, quietly, I added, you might want to leave before things get inconvenient. The convenience was obvious. Evidence, cameras, neighbors watching, real cops involved. And I wasn't bluffing. Over the next few days, things escalated. Karen started calling neighbors, trying to turn them against me. She spread lies, claims that I wasn't stable, aggressive, unreasonable. But with the footage and the HOA complaints, no one took her seriously. Each attempt she made to intimidate backfired, exposing her as desperate and deceitful. Then, the real shock came. Detective Harris uncovered something massive. Karen had been involved in falsifying legal documents in the HOA system, not just notices, but property liens. Fake violations meant to force residents off their property. This wasn't just harassment, it was a serious crime. My pulse raced as Harris explained the implications. If prosecuted, she could face years in prison. Meanwhile, the viral moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. At the next HOA meeting, Karen strutted in, confident as ever, prepared to lecture the board and neighbors. But I had anticipated this. With Harris and evidence in hand, we exposed everything. Her fake violations, impersonation attempts, threats, and lies. She tried to argue, tried to shout over the crowd, but the videos, documents, and her own history spoke louder than her voice. Neighbors gasped, some laughed nervously, others shook their heads in disbelief. Karen's face turned red, a mix of rage and humiliation. For once, she couldn't control the narrative. The viral line of the moment came naturally, whispered by a neighbor. You can't fake respect. And you definitely can't fake authority. The crowd murmured, repeating it, and I knew it would stick. Karen stormed out, slamming doors, but this time, the law was ready. The fake cop was already in custody, facing charges. And the HOA board, previously under her influence, finally recognized the depth of her corruption. I felt a wave of satisfaction, knowing justice had been served. But the final twist, one Karen hadn't anticipated, was even more satisfying. Weeks later, she tried to sue me for defamation, claiming the videos and evidence were fabricated. I smiled, already prepared. Every single document, every recording, every witness statement was legitimate. The court dismissed her case within minutes, adding fines for frivolous claims. At home, my family and I celebrated quietly, relief washing over us. The parking spot incident, which had seemed small at first, had unearthed something much bigger: corruption, abuse of power, and the courage to stand up. The lesson was clear. Entitlement only goes so far, and truth always has a way of exposing lies. And as I watched the sunset from my porch, thinking about the chaos Karen had tried to create, my daughter ran over and whispered, "Daddy, can she really never come back?" I hugged her tight. "Not if we stay smart," I said, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift. The neighborhood felt different now. People smiled at me when I walked by, not out of fear, but respect. And though Karen had tried to control, intimidate, and humiliate, she had underestimated the power of preparation, evidence, and quiet strength. The story, though starting with a simple parking spot dispute, had unfolded into a full reckoning. Karen had been exposed, humiliated, and finally, the law caught up with her. My family was safe, my property secure, and the community aware that abuse of power could never hide in plain sight. But deep down, I knew one thing. Some people like Karen never truly change. They wait, they scheme, and they hope for weakness. I smiled, confident that if she ever returned, I and my family would be ready. The viral lesson echoed in my mind. You can't fake respect. And you definitely can fake authority. And this time, everyone believed it. The morning after the HOA meeting, the neighborhood felt lighter as if a weight had been lifted. Karen was gone, escorted by real police, and the fake cop's arrest made headlines in the local paper. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, as neighbors came out to wave and smile. No longer fearful of her schemes, my family joined me, kids laughing, my wife leaning on my shoulder, and for the first time in weeks, peace settled over our home. Weeks passed, and Karen's attempts to sue me or challenge anything legally were crushed under the weight of evidence. Every time she tried, it backfired, leaving her reputation in tatters. Even the HOA, once manipulated by her, began implementing stricter rules to prevent abuse of power. The neighborhood finally felt safe, orderly, and united. One afternoon, as I mowed the lawn, my daughter ran over with a handmade sign. Parking is for everyone. Respect is forever. I laughed, kneeling to hug her. Exactly, I said. Some lessons you learn early in life. My wife smiled, squeezing my hand. We fought this together, she said, and we won. The final twist wasn't dramatic, it was quiet but powerful. Karen's downfall became a lesson for everyone. Entitlement only goes so far, and abusing power leaves a mark that can never be erased. I knew she would probably lurk in another neighborhood somewhere, hoping for a chance to assert control, but this time, I wasn't just a resident. I was someone ready, someone prepared, someone who stood for truth and justice. That evening, the sun set over our street, casting warm light over familiar faces and peaceful homes. The viral lesson lingered in everyone's minds, whispered in conversations and repeated in smiles. You can't fake respect, and you definitely can fake authority. I felt pride, relief, and a quiet sense of victory. I didn't fight for attention. I didn't fight for glory. I fought for my family, my home, and the truth. And in the end, that was more than enough. Karen had taken her shot, but the law, courage, and unity won, and our lives returned to the calm we deserved. The neighborhood, once tense and fearful, now thrived. People looked out for each other, and though I knew challenges would always appear, I also knew that together, as a family and community, we could face them. Karen had tried to control, to intimidate, and to humiliate, but in the end, she had underestimated the strength of ordinary people standing for what was right. And that was the real victory. Justice served, family safe, and the lesson clear for anyone who dared abuse power. The parking spot incident had been just the beginning, but it became a story that everyone remembered, talked about, and learned from for years to come.